welcome though to Crunching Gears, Season 2, Episode 8. In this episode, Connor Edwards and myself, Kevin Glendunning, are joined by a father and son whose names are synonymous with Irish rugby, the Harrymans, Terry and Allan. We look back at their respective careers and the fascinating story it is. Terry starting out in the 60s, won the Circuit of Ireland with names like Ronnie McCartney, Paddy Hopkirk, and then moving on throughout the sport, competing in the World Championship and many stories beyond it. And Allan, with his time in the co-driver's seat, has allowed him to travel the world and see some fascinating sights. It's a fantastic story. I really think you're going to enjoy this one.
And now we come to the Premier Award, an Austin Cooper S, entered and driven by Paddy Hopkirk and Terry Harryman, and this trophy is accompanied by a cheque for £300.
Absolute right, 150, unseen easy right, 50, easy left, 50 grid, 100, oh, dear God, Bry, 150.
As dawn breaks on Wednesday morning at Sisteron, a dramatic turn of events has brought the rally to life. As a result of a co-driving error, Vatanen's Peugeot has been penalised 8 minutes, and a seemingly impregnable lead has been handed to Walter Rural, who, suddenly finding himself 4 minutes ahead of the Peugeot, is now trying desperately hard to consolidate his position. Determined Rural's masterful handling of the Audi makes a spectacular sight. But coolly composed Vatanen is equally determined to regain his lead and is about to embark on one of the most remarkable fightbacks in the history of modern rallying. The diminutive Peugeot is now in hot pursuit.
It's indeed happiness in the hills for Mark and Terry Harryman, and Ford's third tarmac win in a row, but it's not been easy.
It's been one of the hardest rallies that I've ever had to do. It's fantastic. The road's very fast. Thankfully, it stayed dry, so that was a bit of a help for us, really.
Well, you've got to win first time out, but that's not a new experience for you, Terry. Third time victory in Donegal, I believe.
Yes, Donegal's been very... I've always liked Donegal, and it seems to like me. It's the third win. 7 outings, 3 wins in 2 seconds.
Not a bad record.
Yeah.
How does this one compare with the other 2 victories?
Just as good. Just as good. Maybe more satisfying at my time of life.
And the champagne's going to taste just as sweet?
Better.
My first question was to Terry. It was how he first became involved in rallying.
I suppose it was really through my parents, strangely enough. They lived in Kent, and they used to go to Brands Hatch when it was a grass track, and saw John Surtees' mum and dad racing a sidecar. And then after the war, we went up to Ballyclare to the first race meeting, the Ulster Trophy. That got me interested. I went through the motorbike phase. I raced small motorbikes. And my father said he preferred that I was inside a vehicle rather than sitting on it. So he bought me an Austin A40 Devon, which was not the ideal car for going rallying in, but we had a bit of crack with it.
Yes. So
that's basically how it started. And Queen's University Motorcycle and Car Club competed on the motorbike in a few of their events, trials and rally. And it was strange, it was only a 98cc NSU Fox, but I had a co-driver sitting up behind me reading the map. One night he couldn't appear, so I had to ride and navigate myself, and won the thing outright. I think that comes from an interest in maps.
Yes.
One of my aunts over in Kent had an ordnance survey map tucked away in her sideboard. It was one of the first things that I opened up.
Yes.
When I got there, and I used to go up the tracks near their farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked working on maps.
Yeah.
Never ever imagined that I would be a rally navigator.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't want to be a driver. But the A40 and the lack of brought an end to that.
Yes.
Colleague of Queen's, Frank Main, got me fixed up with a job navigating for a guy from Enniskillen, Junior Whaley, 1960 circuit. Beforehand, we did the Lauren Marsh Hare Rally, and I noticed that all the co-drivers, navigators that involved had map magnifiers.
Right.
I thought I'm going to have to get one of those, and tried. And eventually, I made one out of an old tin can with a big magnifying glass that I had, and it worked pretty good. We finished up dropping the same amount of time as Adrian Boyd, who won the rally.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Or the end of the beginning or something.
Robert Woodside Senior's older brother, worked in shorts in the drawing office, and I was working at that time for about 6 years in the weights department. And Billy kept coming and plaguing me with to go navigate for Robert. And eventually I did, and I started a relationship that went on for 3 years, I suppose. In 61, we finished second overall in the circuit. Then he, I don't know, for some reason said that I was too good for him. He was a brilliant driver, no doubt about it, one of the best ever. And somehow or other, I got involved with Ronnie and Tessie McCartney. Did an awful lot of rallying with Ronnie. Sometimes we'd do 3 or 4 rallies a week. An evening one, and a day one, and an all-night one. So I got a lot of experience very quickly with them. Specifically with Ronnie.
Yeah. And probably knowing Ronnie McCartney, you probably them 3 or 4 rallies you done in the week. It was probably in 3 or 4 different cars as well.
Yep, absolutely. Totally different scenario then. I mean, you could go rallying, road rallying, anything. Basically, how it changed. So that was the start.
And like you know, by 1964, you said there earlier you'd finished second in 61. 64, you won the circuit outright. Like that must have been fantastic. You know, like at that stage, you were still this young guy serving your time at this rally navigating at the time. Must have been brilliant to win such a prestigious rally.
It was incredible. Actually, the year before, 63, we led the rally.
Okay.
Until the last night, the Carlos oil pressure. Ironically, in 64, along with most of the minis, we hit a big rock growing up out of Australia, I think it must have come from. It smashed everybody's sump. And our car had actually deformed the gear casing.
Right.
We lost second gear. We only had 1, 3, and 4. We went through 37 gallons of oil. We had 3 punctures and a petrol pump that packed up. We still won it.
Brilliant.
Never give up. While we were looking at the damage underneath the car, somehow or other I dropped a time card. And we're very near the end of the road section and suddenly realised we turned and went back. And this old boy was going up and down the road, and he waved us down. He said, "Is this what you've lost?" It was the time card.
Wow.
So it was an eventful circuit.
Then, like, 65, Paddy Hopkirk, you were sitting, like, and Paddy Hopkirk at this stage was a world star, never mind, you know, famous Northern Ireland. Like, this is the guy that had won the Monte Carlo a couple of years previous. It must have been a huge honour to get the call from Paddy then to sit.
Well, I was going to do it with Ronnie, obviously. He'd got a Renault Ian Cordini, one of a 3-car team.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do it with him, and then, oh dear, what was his name? One of the bosses in Triumph rang me up and asked me what to do it with Roy Fiddler in a 2.5 PI Triumph.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of the blue, Stuart Turner came on and said, seems like you're the man to take with our team, you know, seem to do everything, and they paid money.
Oh.
So that got me in to doing the circuit with Paddy, but I'd done a couple of small rallies with him
Uh-huh.
a year or two before that, so
Okay.
we were strangers or anything.
Okay, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like a very gifted driver too back in his day as well. Like tremendous
Absolutely.
success, wasn't it? Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then like
So it is.
65 you said you had, you know, a decent year, but 66 you were leading or thereabouts and had a huge accident up here in Donegal.
Look-esque.
Yeah, just like 5 or 6 miles from where I'm sitting here now.
Right.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that was the accident that probably why roll cages is now in rally cars.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like there was talk that was a very, how would we put it, very special mini. It was considerably lighter than most of the other cars about at that time.
Unfortunately, it had one inherent fault, which they had never experienced. It had hydroelastic suspension.
Okay.
And when it landed on the front wheels, the back wheels went down.
Right, yes.
And the thing became undrivable.
Mm-hmm.
Just for an instant.
Like a pogo stick.
Skipped.
Finished up going over this jump, landing, rolling under its roof, going down the road, spinning, wiping off both the filler caps and petrol going everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Sparks. And how it didn't catch fire, I have no idea. But when we got organised, the roof was, well, the right-hand side of the roof was right down to the top of the door.
Right.
So the bottom of the window.
Mm-hmm.
My side wasn't damaged. Paddy's overalls were torn where they'd been on the road.
Mm-hmm. That must have been a frightening experience.
It was one of hundreds. So that was 65, 66.
Uh-huh.
No, yeah, 66 road.
Mm-hmm.
67, we won it again.
Yeah. We'll skip forward into the early 70s. Donegal Motor Club was setting up, and I'm sure a good friend of yours, Austin Fraser, was the clerk of the course, and he was always sitting with Cathal Curley. So Cathal needed a navigator for those early Donegals, so you got the call there to sit with Cathal in Donegal. I'm sure there's some stories around sitting with Cathal.
It certainly was, but the whole thing happened basically because Donegal allowed pace notes,
mm-hmm.
and I had learned quite a bit about pace notes from Paddy from Rhino Alton. I did the recce for Monte Carlo Rally in '66 with Rhino, so I got a good grounding in pace notes, and that helped.
Yeah.
Also did a few rallies with Vic Elford, 2 Gulf London rallies, one in a Ford Cortina GT and the other in a Porsche 911 factory car.
Okay.
That went on to Corsica, went to Corsica, did the recce.
Right.
Didn't get to do the rally, unfortunately.
Mm.
And then the RAC rally,
mm-hmm.
it was Vic in the Porsche. We were round second on the last night. And went down one of those horrible fire breaks in Kielder Forest. And we're stuck there for a long, long time. And that was it. Bad
Right.
Jack.
Uh-huh. No mobile phones or nothing then to make a call for somebody to come and get you.
Also did a rally in the south of France, Criterium to Savannah. Did that with Vic Elford and a Lancia
mm-hmm.
Fulvia. It was the first Lancia Fulvia with a 1440cc engine.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The factory car.
Yeah.
That was quite an experience.
Imagine, yeah. And they were way ahead of their time. They were front wheel drive and all at that stage, weren't they? Like so.
Yep.
Yeah. They were quite a fantastic wee car in their day now, definitely. So yeah. And then like the early 70s, sitting with Cahill and continuing then with the McCartneys. You had great success then with the McCartneys all through the 70s then as well.
Yeah, but Desi only had one win. That was in Galway. Desi was always the bridesmaid. Second. Very consistent second. Won Donegal twice with CB. And then several years later, won it with Mark Lovell. Three Donegal rally victories as well. 3 circuits.
Brilliant, fantastic, yeah. And then 79, you were drafted in then to sit with Malcolm Wilson. Like Malcolm was seen as the next great British hope at that stage. They were expecting great things from him. That must have been, were you seen as the steady pair of hands to help Malcolm develop onto the next level at that stage?
Yeah, I would say so. I did actually, first rally with him was the Ulster Rally.
Okay.
In 78 or so it was. And then he got a deal with Total Oil. And we were teammates with Henry Toivonen, late great Henry Toivonen. And the rivalry between him and Malcolm was fierce. And it certainly helped Malcolm to become a superb rally driver at that year. And then Rossman's Escort in 81.
Yeah.
Did a couple of rallies in Belgium with Malcolm and also Portugal.
And obviously then when you were in the Rothmans team, was that where the friendship developed then with Ari at that stage?
Well, we were in the same team.
Yeah.
And in the Acropolis rally that year, 81, David Richards, for some reason, couldn't do the recce, and I went and did, after it finished doing the recce with Malcolm, went and did it with Ari. And I think that was what started it.
Yes.
Later that year, I had nothing coming on, and Ari won the World Championship, and he had nothing for the next year. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, a friend of ours who looked after getting sponsorship and things for Malcolm in Portugal, a guy called Passos, he called me up one night and said, "Were you doing any rallying?" I said, "No." He said, "You interested?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Would you like to do the Swedish rally with Ari?" I said, "Are you having me on?" He said, "It'll be a great opportunity for you. There will be no money because it's a totally private setup. David Sutton car." And we finished second. Yeah. I think it was probably Stig in a Quattro.
Yeah, because the 4-wheel drive was the Quattros was starting to appear at that stage, sort of 81, 82. Yeah. So, and I suppose Allan.
About that year, I did rallies with Tony Pond.
Yeah, I done Safari rally with Tony Pond. That was
Safari with it, fourth in our first go. If we'd have done what I wanted us to do, we'd have avoided a thing that caused so many people out.
Right.
A bloody big mud hole. And our mud crew, they got stuck. They couldn't do anything. And the Opel guys got, the road told us to go that way because it was Rhino would have gone that way.
Yes.
If Rhino went the wrong way, it was Falder Road. When they got him out of this place, they came back and they pulled us out.
Right.
And if it hadn't been for that, okay, who knows what would have happened afterwards? We would have won. We dropped enough time in that one place to put us out of fourth place. Or put us back to fourth place. I did the Acropolis rally that year with Tony as well, Tony Pond. And then I came straight back from there to do the Welsh, finish off the British Championship with Ari, the Welsh rally.
And like everybody says, Tony Pond, if he had to go over that thing about not wanting to drive left-hand drive cars, he could have been probably as good a driver as any of these other guys, really. He just had this thing about only wanting to drive right-hand drive cars.
Sensationally quick, but he was a total pain in the arse because he wrecked and wrecked and wrecked and wrecked and wrecked. And he'd drive 300-400 yards and he said, "No, that's not right." And he'd reverse back 200 yards and then he'd go forward. And the wreckage just went on and on and on forever. So we were married the next year. The wreckage was all done in 5 days. We had a one holiday. If the lead broke in my pencil now, he'd just say, "Just remember that, tell me broken lead. I'm going to take it easy." But again, that was an adventure to story that year. In the recce, we had problems with zebras. One of them finished up at the bottom with his head passed through the windscreen. On the rally, we also had problems with zebras. Right. With a broken back axle, which the mechanics who had the axle, a spare axle, came to help us so quickly that they rolled the bloody thing, the van, and it jammed the door so they couldn't get the axle. Couldn't get in to get the axle. We lost so much time. Punctures, off the road, went down an embankment backwards. And I said, "Get out and push, get out and push." And I opened the door and there's two big black warriors standing there. And I just said, "Come on, push, push, push." I think they were so amazed that they actually pushed, because normally they say, "Money, money, money." But that was just an incredible thing. We dropped so much time. And then suddenly, towards the end of it, other people did the same thing. Dropped time stupidly. Panu, Michelle, Stig. And the next thing, we were leading it with only about 4 or 5 hours to go.
Right.
We had a halt in the Vasha. I had a shower. And I can remember standing in the shower crying because I couldn't believe that this was going to happen. Something terrible would stop us from winning. But it didn't.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal experience. That was my first World Championship.
I like all the years, all the work, everything was coming together for this one moment, I suppose, at that time, wasn't it?
Yep.
Amazing.
At 45.
Was that young?
Yeah.
So I suppose, Alan, I suppose to bring you in here now, like, what was I suppose Connor really should take this on, really.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. When did you start to become aware of rallying in the household and stuff, and I suppose the level that your father was competing at?
It sort of started for me whenever I was about 5. I think I was either 5 or 6, and we get taken up to Donegal as a family with the McCartneys and their Volkswagen camper van. And there was a photograph taken of Dad, my sister Lynn, and I on a trailer and a map, and it ended up in the Belfast Telegraph. And for me, that's my first memory, watching the Donegal rally from a Volkswagen camper van and providing lunches and things like that for Desi and Dad. So yeah. I think it was 75.
Yeah, I think so.
And at what point did you start to get a taste for it or an interest? Did it develop from there, or did it take a while?
I was probably 9 or 10 when I started to help my dad make the pace notes. He was doing the thing that Patterson's took on. So it was stage notes by TAH, I think it was called. So I would earn my pocket money by writing down the notes that he would call out and then rereading them back to him, correcting them. And then we'd go to the copy shop, get them printed, and then sell them to the competitors that wanted them. So that was my younger years, and that was how I learned and understood pace notes at a very young age, and was able to see the road
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a good grinding in it.
Yes, yeah. So I wasn't. Dad started off with maps. I think I probably did 4 or 5 road rallies in my life, and got comprehensively lost in all of them. So it was the pace notes for me.
So Terry, I suppose probably just go back to yourself there for like you were talking about one safari then, and like this stage, like Ari had come from winning the World Championship a year and a half previous. Like it must have been like nearly like, for him to step back to do the British Rally Championship. Yes, he was still in a good team and all, but it must have been a bit heartbreaking for him not to be able to compete in the World Championship in a regular occurrence at that stage.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Mm-hmm.
That.
Was it the 82, the Manx? You said the huge accident over there, and like whether it's true or not, you've always been attributed with the saying. Somebody always says, "When did you think Ari was going to have a crash?" And you said when he was leaving Scrutineer.
Don't say 2 days ago. Yeah, I'll never forget that. There's a dam somewhere up in the mountains. I can't get the name of it. And a very, very fast flowing bit of road runs down the side of this reservoir. And we were really tramping along, and suddenly Harry sees Stig and Per Eklund up the grass bank, and he's waving to them. And the inside front wheel is probably 15, 16 inches off the ground. It always lifted the front wheel opposite side to the corner. And he's waving to them. I'm thinking, what am I here doing? And the accident was a biggie, but I've got out of the car healthier than I was for weeks beforehand, because I'd done something to my spine.
In a previous accident?
Yeah. So anyway, we're upside down in the escort, held there by the seatbelts, and of course when you let go of the seatbelts, you fall on the roof.
Yes.
I crawled out, stood up, and my back was fixed. Couldn't believe it.
Did Ari charge you for that?
He would be well now. And then even 84, the Manx going through the cattle grid, like little do you think, like almost 40 years later, that's still an iconic Manx moment, isn't it? That going through the cattle grid and you just lifting your head, dear God. But like probably even at the end of the stage, you probably never even registered it. Like, it was just one of those moments in the stage, was it?
Yeah. What was more worrying was going up after the accident round. You could go around a couple of hairpins out. I've forgotten the name of the place. And then it opens up. Going up there with a flat front tire at over 100 miles an hour. And you could feel when you come to the right hand, it was a left hand puncture, when you come to the right hand corners, you could feel the thing pushing out. Thinking, oh, this is going to be a big accident. But no.
The road was wide enough.
Yeah.
And then it was late 84 that Peugeot signed us up then for this new 205 T16. Like this was one of the real Group B monsters.
We didn't rally the car until
Corsica,
which would have been in May, would it?
Yeah.
And our contract started on the 1st of January, so we had involvement.
Yeah.
But the car absolutely suited Ari to perfection because it drove so much like a Mark II Escort.
Okay.
Ari, in the time we were with Opel, he could drive the Ascona. He really couldn't drive the Manta 400. Too much of a racing car.
Right. Never suited his style.
Peugeot was so just suited his style of driving.
And like at the time, like was that such a step up from like a 2-wheel drive, 250 brake horsepower Manta or Ascona or whatever to these like 4-wheel drive probably 350, 400 brake horsepower. Was it a huge jump in performance even for yourselves then at that stage?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the car's potential was just incredible.
You say then, like Tour de Course leading, and probably like on the surface, it probably never really suited RA was tarmac. That showed the capability of the car to be able to lead.
Yep, absolutely.
So
the Peugeot also, we had accidents. In fact, with Ari, you could count on having 9 accidents out of 10.
Right.
Does that include the recce? or was that your specialist subject?
Yeah.
Have you asked him about Monte Carlo recce 85?
No, not yet, no. Is there a story there?
Yeah. Yeah, on the recce, Ari stopped to help a couple of Germans in a Gulf who were wrecking and they were stuck off the road. And the next morning, he didn't come down to breakfast. I went up, down to the door, and couldn't do anything. Eventually got somebody to open the door, and Harry was lying flat on the floor. He'd done something terrible to his back.
Okay.
We're trying to get this Golf back on the road. And the team doctor came along and he went into hospital. I was out of action for 10 days.
Obviously, recce's were a bit longer then.
Yeah.
Brilliant. There were social occasions as well. It's just work. So I said to Jean Todt, I think I need to look here somehow. We're going to do the pace notes because we still haven't done pace notes for about 6 or 7 stages. We said, well, who do you want to drive? I said, I'll drive and I'll take Fred Gallagher as a co-driver. So he says, oh, okay. That's a surprise. Of course, I got carried away.
In a 205 Turbo 16.
Yeah. But the accident where we went off the road and finished upside down was not my fault. A lady coming down the road in the opposite direction in a small Renault, and she panicked, locked the brakes. She had no studs on, she was coming straight to no. And I thought, I'll put it onto this snowbank, get out of her way so it won't be too big an accident. But unfortunately, the snowbank had nothing underneath it. It was just snow resting on undergrowth. And the car just fell over the edge and finished upside down. 10, 12 meters off the road, below the road. They had to get a massive big crane up to the thing to lift it back out onto the road. There was no damage to it at all.
Well, not too bad.
But it was also soft snow.
What was Fred's quote? Just like Vatanen.
Just like that, and I'll thump it.
But like, whenever things were working, like, yes, we're unbeatable, really. That whole, like, from the Thousand Lakes onto San Remo onto the RAC rally, 3 ones in a row. Like, whenever the thing clicked, as you say, it's just at RA style.
It's actually 5 in a row because we followed up with Monte Carlo and Sweden.
Yes, the following year then, yep. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they weren't in the same year as far as the world was concerned, but there were 5 consecutive wins. There's so many accidents. I mean, Corsica, we could have won it. Not could have won it. Should have won it.
Both
twice,
years.
Except for accidents, and big accidents. Even after he came back from his accident, we did horse car in San Remo in a muletto, as they called it, a hack car.
Okay.
We were doing a tarmac on well worn down gravel tires.
Okay.
Just what they could give us. One of the first tarmac stages, we were sixth fastest.
Unbelievable. Like, it just showed that the talent of the pair of you. Like, it takes two to make the car work, doesn't it? You know? And like
that ended in a big accident.
And like,
Unaccountably, it was an Irish side.
yes.
The whole left-hand side of the car, the mud guard, the door, half the engine cover thing. And we were only doing course car. I mean,
zero car.
Yes.
Zero car.
But even going back to like the Monty in '85, like, you know, you made a bit of a small error with the time, and but like the comeback.
Use the word small.
Well, I don't know how to describe it. But like that comeback, like the two just must have just. There was probably, yes, there was a bit of anger in it, but the drive to come back from that, the click must have been in the car. It must have been phenomenal. It's the word I'm looking for. That comeback was just something else. It's out of this world.
Well, the first stage the next morning, an incredible stage. He just, as I was counting down, he says, "Now we really go."
Okay.
And I think we took 25 seconds and a roll on it. But the biggest mistake was on one stage at night, the call to San Rafael. There was snow there was dry roads for 8-9 kilometers, and then there was snow for 12 kilometers, and then it was dry again. And couldn't make up their mind what tires to use. The gravel crew, they were all disagreement.
Who was the gravel crew?
We had 3 gravel crews. Brad. It was John Hopland. Kelly Grundle and somebody, and I can't remember who the third one was. But they couldn't agree, and they were keeping their eye on what we were always doing. And he went on slicks, drag racing tires.
Yeah.
And I said, look, the part of the stage that's got the snow on it is uphill. It's going to be such a mess with racing tires. And the Michelin guy said, you're absolutely right. But Walter is going on racing tires. And I said, well, I think we should go on gravel tires. And eventually Harry saw the light about it, and we went on gravel tires. And as soon as we hit the snow, within 2 kilometers hitting the snow, we were past Walter.
Right.
I mean, it was incredible. He was barely couldn't go forwards.
Okay.
So slippery and on racing tires. And then I spent the rest of the stage reading the pace. I was looking over my shoulder to see where the lights were coming from behind us, because sure he was going to catch us up on the dry stuff. He didn't. We took minutes out of him.
Right.
Actually, we had that rally, the first stage we did it with TV camera, but built in.
Okay.
Live feed. And it was shown throughout France.
Okay.
Live in car.
Yes.
It was so far ahead. And the second stage, we had a good time on that stage. The second stage, Saint-Bonnet-le-Foy, set a blistering pace until we got 500 meters from the end. And we went off the road on a right-hander into a crowd of spectators.
Right.
And I vividly remember one guy coming down head first on the bonnet.
I think there's a photograph of it, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Right.
I was sure there would be people killed or maimed.
Yes.
And drove up to the finish, and I said, you'd better have ambulances quickly down there. And there was only one guy with a broken arm,
Right.
and he actually sent a telegram to Harry congratulating him. You hit me, and I loved it.
It's an honour, nearly. Yeah. And then that huge accident then in Argentina, like, what, were you badly injured in that?
Was I?
Were you badly injured in the accident in Argentina?
Depends how you categorize it. My neck was broken.
Right.
Which is normally accepted as a pretty serious thing.
Yeah.
But I was very, very lucky. The C2 went like that.
Okay.
If it had gone the other way, I would have been either history or paralysed.
Okay.
I was very lucky with it. I also had something broken up in here and a couple of bones broken on my right hand. I was not as bad as Harry, for sure. I was lucky.
And like, were you laid up in hospital during this time out in Argentina as well?
Yeah. Yeah. That team helicopter followed Stig, who was running in front of us. The helicopter follows
Table. Was Carlos in the team as well?
Sound.
Carlos driving? Was he driving?
Yeah. And they came back as agents normally do, and they saw the car had landed, and they just, fortunately, there was virtually no spectators. One spectator was a medical person, and he directed how Harry should be put into the helicopter. If it hadn't been for him, the injuries could have been worse. And somehow or other, I was in the helicopter. And afterwards, the helicopter pilot said, "Do you remember the incident with the electric wires?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It was a good job you saw them, because I didn't." Where we landed near the hospital, there was electricity wires, and we were going straight at them, and I said, "Watch out!" And pulled it back. But
and then, like, for like yourself at home now at this stage, like, there was no mobile phones, there was no, instant or messaging or anything like that. To get that phone call, it must have been, like, not knowing what state your father was in, it must have been an awful phone call to come home then, to hear that news.
It was quite a regular phone call, to be honest. But do you remember CFAX?
Yes, yeah. But 365, wasn't it?
Yeah.
365, yeah.
CFAX was always the place where we'd find out information. But obviously there have been a lot of phone calls over the years where, okay, we're out of the rally, we're all right, or
yes,
something like that. But in Argentina, yes, it was a bit difficult because from my memory, the time zone was massive, and I think the call came in the middle of the night. So it was a shock, but again, it's always better to get that call where he's okay.
Yes. Even coming back from that, you never thought, do I need to continue doing this? It was like, when can I get back out again, really, was it?
yes.
Simple answer.
Yeah. Straightforward.
Mortgage needs paid.
Yeah. Because it was
like falling off a horse, so you had to get back on again.
Yeah. I suppose that's the only way to deal with it, is get back out again.
It must have been just before the end of the rally. Some of the Peugeot people came in to see me, and I was in intensive care, exactly. Yeah. But I had to have cigarettes. They weren't too keen on this, and I said I must have cigarettes. So they moved me into this massive ward where there was nobody else in it. I was there by myself, and I had so many visitors, nice people, nosy people.
Cigarette suppliers.
People come with a carton of cigarettes, yeah. And vodka. And I said, no, I said, now, let's talk about when I'm going to be able to rally again. And this looked at me that it was mad, which it was. I explained, and I said, I want to do the RAC rally. Okay, who are you going to do the RAC rally with? I said, Kelly Grundle, who was under contract with Peugeot Talbot Deutschland.
Okay.
Who ran the team that I did German Championship with Michelle. And again, Jean Todt agreed with it. And that was the Evo 2 car.
Yes.
With 450 horsepower. And me with a broken neck. And I made myself up with some sort of a collar thing. Thought this will be all right. Went out to shakedown. And I thought, what a fucking idiot I am. Sorry for the language. Why am I here? What am I doing this for? I don't need this. Couldn't really back away from it.
No.
And went to Kelly. Didn't finish because we hit a tree head on. Out. We were lying second.
Like you talked about, the Evo 2 car. Were they a huge improvement even from the previous generation of the car too?
Incredible. Just so much better. Better braking, better aerodynamics.
More power.
Much more power. Turbo lag, virtually nothing.
Right.
Which was a big problem with turbos. And it was a serious bit of kit. That I regretted the fact that it only got in once.
Okay.
And then the next year was with PTD, Peugeot Talbot Deutschland, with Michel Mouton, which was a year's rallying that I really enjoyed because it was just totally relaxed and different.
Okay.
They were like a big family, weren't they?
Sorry?
Peugeot Talbot Deutschland was like a big family.
Yeah.
Yeah, big family team. It was class.
Brilliant.
I hadn't the pressures of the World Championship events and all that. It was more relaxed, more fun. That was kind of why you got into the sport, I suppose, in the first place.
Yep, exactly.
And at the end of the '86, the Group B cars were banned. They were getting a bit crazy, weren't they? Like they were probably getting too fast for the roads. And the fans, I think maybe was more of a problem really than the cars, were they?
Unlike any other rally cars, the Group B cars were built purely as competition vehicles. They had their shortcomings, obviously. They were a bit fragile.
Whenever you crashed them?
Yeah, but to say a bit fragile, the Turbo 16, for example, was basically a plastic body, plastic doors, plastic mudguards, plastic engine cover, steel roof. Andre de Cortanza, the engineer of the team, did an analysis of their Argentina car, and he reckoned that the distortions of the roll cage were such that it had to be submitted to 12G force at the accident.
Right.
To say normally that people don't survive 12G.
No.
That's only one of the impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was multiple.
Yeah.
It's kind of frightening when you put it like that. The 12G, like that's 12 times your own body weight being pushed down on you, like, isn't it?
And no seat specifications.
No.
No seatbelt specifications. No hands.
No. Yeah. I know wraparound seats. No nothing like that.
So to go back to the early 60s, we were rallying without seatbelts.
Yeah. Or roll cages around. Yeah.
Roll cages.
At slightly slower speeds.
And then like 87 Group A come along. Like you and Kelly Grundle done the Monte Carlo in a 2-wheel drive Sierra. Like was that like probably wasn't an ideal car, but was it such a slow car compared to the Group B monsters you'd stepped out of?
Absolutely. Couldn't compare.
Yeah.
Couldn't compare.
Yeah.
What power did a Sierra cause would have? 300?
370, I think we talked about then.
270.
370.
Unless you go to the 500, of course.
Yeah. And two-wheel drive again as well too. Like back all the power going through the rear wheels as well too, which was probably took a bit of getting used to again as well.
Didn't you have to get out and push it up one section in multi?
Yes. Yeah. Actually go backwards, sliding back down the hill. The spectators came out and pushed us, got us away. It was so bad, I don't think we actually qualified to do the final leg.
Right.
And yet we had two fastest stage times when the roads were dry.
And the Sierra was a great car on dry tarmac, and that once it kind of went beyond its comfort zone, then it seemed to struggle, really, didn't it? You know, so,
yep.
And the huge turbo lag in them as well. Like it seemed to be you had 0 power, and then boom, you had your 350, 370 brake all going through the back wheels all at one go, didn't it? You know, so
that's where those boys learned how to left foot brake, wasn't it?
Yeah,
to keep the boost up.
To go back on that, back in 82, was that the year that Pond it was? In 82 in Safari, mechanics didn't go out with you on recce.
Okay.
If the car broke down, you had to get in touch with the workshop they had in Nairobi, and they'd send out a new car, not necessarily a new car, but a different car that goes. But the first thing was, how did you communicate?
Yes.
You're in the middle of the sticks in Kenya. There's not too many telephone boxes. So if the car broke down, you could be there for 3 days.
Were you?
And they had a variety of cars. Didn't have enough recce cars, really. They had Bluebird turbos, which were reckoned to be the most unreliable car ever. And on them, just to go back to the turbo lag, you could actually put your foot down and count to 5 or 6 before it started to go. They were absolutely horrendous. And you knew as soon as you got one, it was going to break down that day or the next day. It was grim.
So that wouldn't help Tony Pond's humour having to go in one of them?
Oh, no. You could see big jets flying way, way up. And he said, "Oh, please God, let's go home on one of those." I can't wait to get back on one of those. And the worst part for me, with the flight with Pondy to Kenya, was he booked the tickets, tourist class, which I was not quite used to at that stage, and non-smoking.
That wasn't good.
How long was it? 8 hours. 8 hours bloody flight with a cigarette.
London, Nairobi.
Yeah.
So not only was Tony Pond in bad humour, I would say Terry was in bad humour too. Every time he got off the plane.
Did you have to share a room as well?
No.
Saved.
Well, not in Nairobi. Might have done in Eldoret or somewhere like that.
And then for 88, then the season with Mark Lovell contesting, like this was such a like doing the Dutch Championship, the British Championship, and the Irish Tarmac Championship. Like that was a busy year, wasn't it?
It was, yep.
Mm-hmm. And Mark was another one of those guys that probably his talent never got him really where he deserved to be. He was phenomenally fast in tarmac, wasn't he?
Fantastic. He's a very, very good driver. He's a good on gravel as well. Very good. Not just as good as Malcolm, I would say, but not far off it. Pondy level, Jimmy, Russell. They're all similar, but Malcolm was a bit quicker than.
He just had that special, something a wee bit more special about him, you know. So.
Yeah.
And like that, like, you know, to contest 3 championships in the 1 year, like even today's standards, that's unheard of, you know. Like, what was the thinking behind that? Was that just a Ford decision that they wanted him to get him out as often as possible, or what was the thinking behind that?
I really don't know. Must have been something to do with the sponsorship deals.
Okay.
And Allan, 88 would have seen you take your first tentative steps into rallying, is that correct?
Yes. Well, you know the story behind that. You were just saying about my father turning up on your doorstep with an entry form for the Tour of the Sperrins.
Correct. I was the event secretary for that. I was the first year to run it. Yes.
That was actually my second rally. The first one was the Festival Stages, which was held around Ballymena.
In the showgrounds?
In the showgrounds, yeah. And I remember coming home from that thinking, I'm just not cut out for this rallying, if that's rallying. And Dad says, look, it's all right. We'll get you into the woods for the next one. I was like, oh, okay, right. So, and he was right. Once went into the woods, proper rallying, then I began to enjoy it.
Was that the plan or the intention? You were going to stick in the driver's seat, or what was the thinking at that stage?
I think the thinking was quite similar to my grandfather, that my father wanted to get me off motorbikes before I got into motorbike racing, because at that stage I was buying and selling motorbikes with his help and assistance and upgrading, and wanted road bikes, and was thinking about, because motorbike racing is affordable, to go at a club level. I didn't think at any stage that I'd be getting a rally car, but for my own health and safety, as my grandfather did for my father, decided it was a good idea to get a rally car. So with help from Skoda in the Czech Republic, we imported the car from Czechoslovakia, and Malcolm Wilson actually lent us a Range Rover and a trailer to go and pick it up from the port at Skoda. What is it? Skoda UK. We're down in Norfolk. Yeah. So we went, picked it up, brought it home, and made it Northern Ireland Championship legal. Because believe it or not, then the WRC cars didn't have as many safety features as you needed to rally in Northern Ireland or the UK. So we got all that sorted out. And who co-drove for me first? Was it Bobby?
Probably, yeah.
I think Bobby Willis was my first co-driver. So, yeah, that's where that began.
And did you get any sage words of advice from your dad before you started out?
You can probably imagine. Don't be like Vatanen. Yeah. It's not a works drive. So, yeah, it was my wages were paying the entry fees, and Dad helped me out with tires and preparation, paying Bobby.
And was there ever at any stage the two of you in the one car? Did they ever co-drive for you? Or?
No.
Not competitively. We did gravel notes together.
Did an awful lot of rallies together as gravel note crew, yeah, but we never got as far as. Oh, tell a lie, actually. Whenever the Targa rallying started up, my first season at Targa rallying, I managed to coerce him into the passenger seat for a couple of events. I think we did two, yeah. So that was it.
Was in Loughgall.
Yeah, Loughgall.
Was down south somewhere.
Not Punches Time. What was it?
Some big horse racing course down there.
Yeah, good crack.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was like one of those things, we always talked about doing it, never got around to doing it, and then whenever this appeared, we can actually do this now. Go and have a bit of fun.
How long was that?
10 years ago, would you believe?
10,
yeah.
When did you make the move from the driver's seat to the co-driver's seat?
I got a phone call from a friend of mine, Johnny Boyd, who was Adrian Boyd's son, to ask me if I had any interest in doing Donegal. I think it was 91 in the historics. He'd acquired an ex-Patmos Austin A40. So we went to do the recce for Donegal. I think it was the weekend before then, in his father's 1960-something Daimler Dart. And the weather was fantastic. So we got the roof down, we got suntan, we got the pace notes made, and then we came back the next weekend. And in the Austin A40, I think we survived Friday, but then we crashed out on Saturday on Atlantic Drive, which is actually to become one of the stages I've crashed in boats on over my career. We ended up beside the Singing Pub, and ended Saturday in there in typical Boyd Harryman style. So that was the beginning of my co-driving. He ended up with another Lotus Sunbeam after the A40, and we did Circuit 92, I think it was, and then Killarney, Rally of the Lakes, whenever it was in December. I think that was 92 as well. I think we finished them both. I remember one of the memories is coming down Malls Gap in the dark, in the ice, on Dunlop historic racing slicks. Never been so glad to get back to the hotel after that one.
I can imagine.
Because whenever you'd done the recce and you'd seen what was over the edge,
yes,
it's like, don't want to be doing that.
No. Throw a few extra cautions into the notes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But rallying with Johnny was fun. You know, it was a family affair. His dad would come along. I never ever thought at that stage that it was ever going to progress any more than that. But then the next year we were racing karts, and a chap was racing karts against said that he was going to start rallying, would have any interest in co-driving for him. It was a guy called Jay Jordan. And I said, yeah, sure. We'll see what happens. And lo and behold, got a phone call. Can you meet me up at David Greer Motorsport and get you fitted up for the seat? And we're going, I think, Kirkuson, Bishop's Court, that type of thing. And then the Circuit of Ireland, and then Donegal. Yeah. So we did that for a few years with Jay. And again, never thought anything else was going to come of it. But it's funny. Like, it just keeps growing and growing.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have the passion, as long as you have the passion and the enjoyment, and it's all still there, then you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And you moved on then into your partnership with Robert Woodside. So was that through sort of the family connection, or how did that come about?
With Robert, I'd been hanging around with his cousins, Mark and Simon, who is Robert Senior's sons, who Dad co-drove for. So there's that started off with a family connection. We just went and watched rallies and hung about, and like whenever the Mobile Rally Challenge was on and Dad and I were working at that, they'd come over and watch bits and pieces and stay for a few days at some of the venues. So there was a big passion for rallying in amongst us, and Robert was quite a lot younger than us, so he probably appeared 92, 93, and we went karting together in 94 and 95, and then he went into single-seater racing in 96, and in 97 he was getting his license, and I said, okay, what about trying rallying then? So we borrowed a friend's Micra and did that rally at Kirkuson, was at New Year stages. And I think we finished quite well. Surprised a lot of people. And his dad then said, okay, we'll buy you a rally car. So we bought a Group A Nova. And that was the beginning of that relationship properly.
Was it the following year then you had to go with the BRC together?
We did. The Ulster Rally was the only round of the BRC we did in the Nova. And then, sold it. Actually, the Ulster, we had a massive accident. The Ulster. Yeah. that nearly curtailed everything. Whenever I walked into Robert's family home covered in blood. But it was just like little small glass shards, nothing serious. But his dad was saying then, that's it, it's over. We're not going to do any more.
Where was the accident?
Parkinure, out near Dungannon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we managed to calm him down, sold the Nova, and did a deal with Don Buckley to buy an Evo 4 it was basically do the British Championship and as many rallies as we could afford to do to get mileage and to get experience, because he was only 18 then. And to be at that level, it was an incredible stepping stone for him to take. And we went out and got some pretty reasonable results for what I thought were good at that time anyway. And then the next year we moved into an Evo 5, which wasn't really quite as reliable as we wanted. It was a faster car, but just Robert really at that stage needed a Group A car because he was driving the car beyond its limits. And yeah, we got up to that level, and then our paths veered apart, and I started doing a bit more international stuff, and he then went with Barrett Subaru with Rory Kennedy, I think, sat in with him, and we learned an awful lot in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I think there was one of the years you had at least, was there 16 rallies you'd covered? I think, was it 98 or something? You had taken part at least 16, including your first WRC round on the Network Q rally. How was that for you? We call it new driver, stepping up another level again from the BRC. How did you find that? Was it a steep learning curve?
What I found is the higher the level of the rallying that you do, it's actually easier because everything's set out for you. All the rules and regulations are all there. All the time frame for everything that you have to do, everything is there. So as long as you read the regulations, you understand the regulations, you understand the itinerary. For me, it's an easier way to go rallying because it's all programmed, yeah, marked out. And it's also, we're getting into the stage there where the WRC was getting regulated. The itineraries of the events were becoming more and more similar. So I enjoy that where you can plan and the driver can change his mind. That for me was one of the problems I always had, was you'd be all set up, you'd made this massive plan, and then the driver go, can't do that day. Okay. But once you went to WRC level, it changed all that. So Dad had actually done a couple of rallies with Andrew previously, and he was then going with Hamid Al-Wahabi. So I think it was the first rally we did together, wasn't it?
The same rally at the same time.
Okay, same, yeah. Dad was with Hamid and I was with Andrew. So during the recce, we shared recce service and stuff like that, shared information. So it worked out very well for me.
You were with who?
Andrew Pinker.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you finished 33rd overall, was it?
33rd, yeah. It wasn't without its problems and things like that. But, for me, coming in, and for Andrew, I think it was our first rally together, we were both quite satisfied with it.
And being at that World Championship level for the first time to come away with a finish, it's fantastic too, isn't it, as well? It's nice feather in your cap as well, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it was. And again, previously to that, I've been quite lucky. I'd done gravel notes on the RAC before, so it had an idea of what you're getting into, where you're going, and very lucky that way.
Yeah. It didn't frighten you, really. You were prepared.
You were prepared just another step up. Once you read everything and you've done the recce, then you just have to be there on time.
And read a book.
Read the book, at the right time.
Allan, your father took a wee bit of a back step from a frontline rallying, but then in the mid-90s, he made a comeback with the Renault team in the BRC with the Clios. This was a very exciting time for the BRC.
Everybody was learning very quickly in those days because not a lot of the teams had any information about the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And even tyre companies, were interested in it because these cars were just ripping up front tyres. Mm-hmm. And the engineers, how many engineers did Renault have? Yeah. We were getting into data technology, and things like that then.
Yes.
People with tire temperature guns at the end of stages.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was it reminded me of touring cars at the time.
Yeah.
The amount of development that was going on.
Mm-hmm. And it was kind of nearly the same teams.
Yeah.
You were watching, you were watching Jason Plato or whatever in his Laguna, and then you had Robbie Head.
With the same colour scheme.
Yeah.
You were watching Robbie Head and Alan O'Reilly.
That's it. Yeah. And then out to the Middle East. The Middle East was it's a whole different experience. It's like navigating your way through the deserts and all. There's not a defined road as such. Was that provided a different challenge then again?
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And did you enjoy the years you spent out there?
It is certainly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Different scene, different people. And when you're out there, the people were all friendly, and whereas here, they were getting into the era of animosity, I suppose you could call it. Nobody was helping other people or things like that. It was very good, I must say, an education.
It was probably like harking back to 20 years previous to what rallying had been here, whatever, as you say, that friendliness, that wanting to help each other out and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, different values, but you're right, it was friendly rallying.
It was multicultural as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You know, it was you had people from Oman, Dubai, Jordan, Lebanon, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland,
Australia.
It was, and everybody was interested in what everybody else was doing.
And you had the team to go to Europe. You had the M Sport. You had all the top world teams out there with their full team supporting the top guys and all. It was
the top 3 cars were proper factory cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then everybody else behind them.
Yeah.
Was there, like, the entries weren't that, was there 25, 30 cars in most of the rallies?
Yeah, just could have done with another 20%, 25% more.
Yeah.
Competitive people, but it was good. I must say, enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And there always seems to have been, and maybe Terry, you're the man who started it, but there always seems to be a strong Northern Ireland and Irish connection from a co-driver point of view in the Middle East. And why is it? What's the popularity, or why do the Northern Ireland and the Irish guys work so well?
Well, you went out first in '95, wasn't it? Graham McKinley.
Exactly. I was sitting 10 minutes ago thinking, what was his name? Brian McKinley. Yeah. McGinley.
Yeah.
From Palomini.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first person I did. I went out. Paul Ridgway got me out there to do a job with one small team in a Land Rover. These V8 Land Rovers. I was doing coordinators, we could call it. That was my first. I combined 2 things. We were trying to get a replacement for the Mobile One Rally Challenge, and so Dubai would be the ideal place to do that, because it would be new to everybody. And there should have been money available, but the top motorsport man there wanted it all for himself for Formula One, which still hasn't got, has he?
No. Next door got it.
Yeah.
So the co-driver thing from Northern Ireland, they do like the way we talk, and it's something I've come across quite a lot. Is I've worked a lot with foreign drivers. Is if you speak clearly and not slowly, because obviously you can't read the pace notes slowly, then they understand. Because English isn't their first language, but you have to make them happy enough so they're not translating. Because if they're starting to translate in their heads, then you're wasting time. So it's all about being clear, saying the right words,
stressing at the right time.
Yeah, and intimating what's happening. If it's fast stuff, then you speak.
You're fast.
Like there's no stress, and then if you want to get them to slow down, you make it a little bit stressful. They understand the feeling in your voice. Yeah, because there's Bobby, Ronan, yourself, Mickey Joe Morrissey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kelly and Duffy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joe Downey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it had some mighty times out there. Yeah.
And is it much of a transition to getting used to the road, or not even roads, but the conditions out there, and being able to, what do you call it, call the notes, there's less landmarks, etc., to, that type of thing?
Well, my first experience was with Hamid. Dad would go out, make the notes with Hamid, at slow speed, and then I would go out and do the practicing with it as you're allowed then. So I learnt how to see the desert, and then whenever I think it was the next year, 2000. No, it was a couple of years later. I ended up competing with Mubarak Al-Hajri through Ron Kremen, who was running the team. And Mubarak had been a co-driver before, so he had, as we now call, desert eyes. He could pick the fastest, easiest route most of the time, even in the recce. So we'd make notes which were basically describing how to move forward over the landscape the easiest way, not really pace notes. But then that worked fine whenever you're in the desert. But then whenever you went to Lebanon or Jordan, you needed proper pace notes. So we worked. I learned a lot. He learned a lot. We crashed a lot. Because he was a crazy guy. Saeed's cousin. Remember Saeed from the Rough? Yeah.
Sideways Sid.
Sideways Sid. Well, Mubarak was his cousin. Yeah.
You left out a couple of Irish co-drivers.
Yeah.
Michael Orr.
Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. Still going.
BP. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Just surprising, isn't it? How many?
Bit of a proving ground.
Done well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned there, the Mobile One Rally Challenge, you were involved in the organisation of that. Like what, like I was only spoke to Ronan Morgan there a few weeks ago about it. Like what a championship it was. Prime time Saturday afternoon viewing, like you had your grandstand, you had your Man United Liverpool matches on, and there was rallying slap bang in the middle of this. Wasn't it fantastic?
Brilliant.
Time, yeah. Uh-huh.
It worked so well. Mobile were so helpful. It was fantastic. I mean, can you imagine moving 6 rally teams and all their hangers on and everything from north of England to the Isle of Man?
Yeah. And then the Isle of Man, then to Wales or whatever.
Their cars could be there okay anytime beforehand. With all the personnel.
Yeah.
Someone to do the hard plane.
Right.
BAE 146.
Okay.
Fly from Blackpool to Douglas.
Yeah.
And back.
Mm-hmm.
It was just fantastic. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happened? Was there a petrol crisis or something?
Okay.
I was so happy being organised and that, being involved in it. It was a joy.
Yeah, and like when you think about it, like Lancia had works cars over.
Yeah.
Toyota GB had their cars in it. Ford had Andrews Heat for Hire cars. Like it was so well supported by the manufacturers as well. Like it's even, you can't even think about it happening now. You can't imagine like Toyota sending Yaris's and letting like some Mark Higgins drive it or whatever. It's just the concept of it now is just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yep.
Lots of good friendships made out of that event.
Say again?
Lots of good friendships.
I would say absolutely, because
all the drivers and co-drivers are kept together, in hotels
for 10 days,
sitting waiting, for their turn. And it was a lovely ambience to be around because everybody was sitting chat. Like Nicky Grist and Malcolm Wilson met there for the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was relationships that were made, and
you were bubbling before there was such a thing.
Yes. Who'd have thought it? Yeah.
But like as I say, like even to go from the north of England to Isle of Man to Wales or whatever, like as you Terry, you just said the logistics behind it, and it was all filmed within like I think 10 days, 12 days or something, wasn't it?
Yep.
Like the time frame for it all to happen was just unbelievable, and you always seem to be blessed with the weather for it as well.
Apart from the dust.
The dust.
Which year was it all the drivers complained about the dust? I can't remember. But again, normal rally problem.
Yeah. But like as I say, can you imagine now trying to get like the contracts you'd have to go through to get OJ to drive like like a front wheel drive car? You know, it wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen, would it? You know,
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And then to allow a junior driver, like say John Armstrong, to drive a Yaris,
Aye.
it just wouldn't happen.
No. And like we talked about Mark Lovell earlier on, like Mark Lovell come within 2 seconds of beating Stig Blomqvist. You know, like dream scenario, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. You had to be brave to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
As well, because your reputation's on the line.
Aye.
Yeah.
You had them 5 or 6 stages and 5 or 6 different cars, and you had to prove yourself.
Aye.
Was
it one practice run you got? Yeah. One practice run, one timed run.
Right.
You got so much cooperation from top people outside the thing. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, and motor clubs. You need motor clubs on board to come around the stages.
Yeah. Because you need marshals, you need rescue services, you need all that just to fall down.
All the radio guys as well.
Yeah. Oh, I do think it was way ahead of its time. Like it really was. So
Yep, great event to be involved with.
Yeah.
Yeah, just again, just to pick up with Allan there, and come back to the Tour of the Ferns. That your first win, I believe, that would have been with Pater Harrison. Is that?
It wasn't my first win.
Was it not? Okay.
What year was Tour of the Ferns? 2007. Was it? So Pater,
I think.
2008.
Yep, I think it was.
You have to go back 12 years, believe it or not, for my first win, which was with Raymond Mason. Do you remember Raymond?
Yeah, Rally Hire to this day.
Yeah. In his famous yellow cab. It was the Ballinahinch Summer Stages, 1995. That was my first rally win. And I can't remember very much about it because it was all very exciting. No, Raymond. Mason. Yes. And as you can probably imagine, there was a bit of a celebration afterwards.
And that's when things get really hazy.
Yes. Ballinahinch Motor Club.
So was that in Bishop's Court then? Was that summer?
Oh no, that was in the woods.
On the woods, right? Okay.
Yeah. In the woods on pace notes. Yeah. I think I probably did 4 or 5 rallies with Raymond over that period. And he always said I was the least prepared co-driver that I'd ever worked with. But he loved the way I read the notes. So he was happy to live with it. So going back to Pater then in 2008, I was helping Stan Harper at the time preparing rally cars. Well, as it did on and off through whatever it was, 10 years. He was down Nana Hill. And Pater's car was in the workshop. And I think Damien had something else to do that weekend, so he couldn't do it. So Stan came up with the idea, we've got an in-house co-driver, we'll just put him in the car. So Pater and I went off, did recce. And again, it was one of those ones that's disjointed. I think I did the recce the weekend before. And then, you had a week in the workshop and then back to do the rally. Just keep on looking at the times, first stage time. How do we do? Yep, pretty good. Then the second stage time, looks like we're leading. Okay, so kept pushing, and he was happy. He was comfortable at the pace he was going at. I was comfortable reading the notes, and we were fortunate enough to get the win. Not long after that, made the decision then to do the Ulster Rally. And it was, apart from a rally in Norway that I did where I went over the start line and the cam belt fell off the car. The Ulster Rally was the shortest rally I have ever done because it lasted 39 seconds. And we had an absolutely monumental accident at Mark Higgins' favourite place.
The telegraph pole.
Yeah. So that was the beginning and the end of me and Pater's rallying career at that stage. I don't know how long it took him to get things back together after that accident. It was one of the biggest ones I've been involved with. It didn't involve going upside down. So that was that. bit of a shame because it went from, a win.
Hero to zero.
Yeah. But what can you do?
And what do you call it? In 2006, I think it was, you were sitting with Kevin Lynch in Donegal. And
Yes.
leading after day one and looking to do a repeat performance of your dad, possibly.
Yes. Oh, well.
When
we didn't go there thinking that we were going to have the pace, because the weather forecast had said it was going to be very dry and warm. But it turned out in the Friday morning, okay, it was warm, but it wasn't the heat that they expected. But it was damp, and we were on Kumo tires, and they just suited the conditions perfectly. And Kevin drives with an incredible feeling of grip. So he just knows when the grip's there and when it's not. So we put in a couple of really good stage times. Can't remember how many we won that day, but leading on Friday night, coming back to the hotel, nice feeling to call the old man and say, he says, how's it going? He said, no, not too bad. Where are you this weekend? I said, Donegal. All right, how's it going? We're leading. You're what? So, yeah, that was good. But then it ended against the house in Atlantic Drive again. Yeah.
Quite near the second pub again, wasn't it? I think you were
Yeah. Well, I think my rally has ended in Atlantic Drive a few times.
Lots of people have.
Yeah. I think Robert Woodside and I knocked down a bridge on one occasion. Yeah. But Kevin was an unbelievably fast driver. We did. Do you remember the Rally Ireland
candidate event?
The candidate event? Yeah. Like, I had a rough idea of his potential then. I think I would crashed out of that and got stuck. Yeah. But before that, I'd seen how good he was in the gravel, and then I did a couple of tests with him before Donegal and saw how good he was in the tarmac. And, yeah. Very fast driver.
And to come from never competing to winning rallies within, was it 2 years or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. He arrived up at Stan Harper's one night with a very old Group N car, and just looking for some help. And Stan, being Stan, helped him, brought him along the way, and next thing he had 3 World Rally cars in the shed.
Hanging off.
Yep.
It was phenomenal if you think back on it, like the commitment, the money he spent, and the rallies he won. Like was it how many times they won Lurgan Park as well? Like,
yeah.
And beating Mark Higgins, Kenny McKinstry,
Oh, aye. Yeah. Oh no. You just don't get that by buying heavy machinery, because everybody had heavy machinery.
Yeah. And like that Donegal 2006, the height of the boom, every man had his World Rally car there.
Yeah, or a helicopter.
Like to be leading after day one is like, it's an achievement. It has to be a huge, when you're looking back in your career, it has to be one of them things that you're going to look back and say, that was me, So.
Sure. And the funny thing was, there's been so many similarities in my dad's and my life that I've been offered lifts and helicopters over lots of times, but I tend not to do it unless I've crashed out of a rally. And then you go, right, okay, the chances of having 2 crashes in one day is quite slim. So
not if you could like Mr. Vatanen.
Yeah. So that was one of the times I accepted a lift in a helicopter to go back to the hotel from Atlantic Drive down back to Letterkenny. And I must say, the pilot made it a very pleasurable experience, because he obviously knew that I wasn't happy about being in it.
Yes.
He made it very pleasurable, and that's probably the last time I was ever in a helicopter. Yeah. So, yeah, it's one of those rallies that I'll always remember for good things, apart from the accident at the end. Yes. But, yeah, it was good times. Kevin was a lovely guy to be around as well.
Yeah, I'm very unassuming, very. When he was out of the car, he was so quiet, completely different persona. But he must have just, whenever you said go, or whoever said, it must have just clicked with him. Really,
that's it. Yeah.
And speaking of being in exotic machinery, I always think of Robert and yourself bringing the Porsche to the circuit and the ERC round. How did that come about?
Robert and I had been friends with Richard since the BRC in '98, whenever Richard was driving the Subaru. so we've always stayed friends, kept in touch. We'd been a couple of times to Below Zero, you know, the ice driving school up there. And I got talking to him after Monte Carlo, whenever Delacour was driving the car. And just said, you know, what is there any chance of, you know, maybe getting that car anywhere? And he said, well, we're doing a drive day in Ireland for potential customers. So I said to Robert, look, this might be up your street. So I think that's the way it worked out. And they brought it over, Robert drove it, and then he said, okay, we'll maybe get a deal together to get it at the circuit. And we got some very good backing from Karcher, Craigmore and Portadown helped us. And the iconic livery that will stay with me forever. I just thought it was one of the most glorious looking, glorious sounding rally cars ever, albeit in Ireland, on the same pace as R2 cars.
Didn't matter.
It didn't matter. No.
The sound.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic, and it was a real shame, gutting for me especially, whenever the clutch broke on the start line in Newton Ards, because there were so many friends and family of mine around that street stage, and then not to get to do it. But you know, again, these things, you get stories out of them, you get memories out of them.
Yeah. And that's them the kind of things you're going to remember, and you know, in 20 years' time, things you know, sitting in that car, that's going to be a standout, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Now people, what are we now? 6 years on, people like we're here talking about it still. We didn't ever expect it to be that special, but Roberts has a big family history with Porsche. You know, they've always had Porsches. His father owned the old Billy Coleman Porsche. I think John Mulholland had it as well. Yeah. There's a big picture up on one of our workshop walls in work, you know, of Ian jumping the car on a public road, not far away from the workshop. So it meant a lot to him. Obviously, my family has had a deep-rooted history of Porsche with Dad and Desi and Cal. So it ticked all the boxes.
Yeah, it squared the circle as such, you know.
Yeah.
And Dom. And Dommy.
Oh, and Dommy, that's right. Remember that? Dommy and Dad and Donegal in the Porsche.
That's
Bobby
right.
Kings.
All right, yeah, that's right, yes.
Yeah. What's that? I forgot about it. I could sleep tonight.
But there's a guy there too, a fantastic talent, you know, that is largely overlooked as well too.
Yeah.
The things that man has done the car, you know.
And a fantastic preparation man.
Yeah.
There's not much he doesn't know about car setup and about how to make a rally car work. Yeah. Great guy to be around.
Like I was chatting to Marty McCormick and Barney there, and like the RAC rally, Barney says like there's like some stages you basically finish the stage 300 meters up, you start the next stage in the middle of a forest complex. Donny appears out in the middle of the woods. Well, boy, how you get on in there?
Yeah, star man.
It just appears everywhere and anywhere, and just whatever needs done.
And he'll always have time for you as well. Yep.
Brilliant.
Yeah, good guy.
I think that must have been some experience too that weekend for you, Terry, too. Like that car, that Bobby King Porsche. Like I think it took to it, and I think he had a more strange angles around Donegal that weekend than was probably anybody thought was possible, did they?
That's similar to what do you call it? The Hotel Bally. It used to be called Bally. What's it called now?
Oh, the Mount
Eric.
Ballyrain, yeah.
The Ballyrain.
Ballyrain. 12 minutes from Sonora to Ballyrain Hotel.
In that?
Yeah.
On the road?
Yeah, got up to the start of the rally. I kept saying, we need to go, yeah, okay. I don't know what they were doing, why. And all of a sudden, it was a total panic. And I think it was 12 and a half minutes to do.
Yes.
Or would it be?
Where was it from?
Stranora.
Stranora to
Letterkenny, yeah.
Mount Errigal. How far is that?
Yeah. Oh, it's what, 15 mile, I would say, you know. And like the weekend of the rally, the traffic around there never knows too. So.
12 minutes.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. After that, the rally was nothing.
The 21k drive.
21k.
K.
It wasn't far away with me, 15 miles in, really.
Yeah, 21k drive.
It's over 60 mile an hour average. Oh, it's not that bad.
Mhm.
Traffic.
That's what I said, the weekend Donegal Rally, weekend the traffic round Letterkenny and Stranraer and all
Basically,
that.
good road, but there's parts of it that aren't wonderful, isn't there?
You know, Alan, you look at I'm looking at the cars you sat in over the years. Like, you know, if you could pick a dream list of cars you wanted to sit in, I think you've ticked all the boxes. The Porsche, Metros, tick,
Yep.
here, you know, M3s, WRC Focus,
Yep.
you know, S9 Subarus, you know, like what a career you've had too. You must have some great memories there too over the years.
I've been very lucky to meet some wonderful people and some fantastic drivers who have had great cars. For me, the standout one, the fastest rally car that I've probably ever been in was the 03 Focus, because at the time there was I hadn't been in anything that went down the road as fast, but so easy. Like, it was effortless to have the speed in the car.
Okay.
The suspension travel, the engine power, the gear shifting, the brakes, it just dealt with everything easily.
Even aerodynamics in them too.
Yeah.
They stuck to the road too, didn't they?
Yeah,
They were such a
incredible thing. The Porsche, again, being inside it with the noise and the experience was something that I'll never forget. I do find myself going onto YouTube and watching the in-car every now and again just to remind myself. But one of the ones that it always had a bit of a reputation as being a little bit too fast. The ST205 Celica.
Oh yeah.
I went to Norway in '99 to do some rallies with Martin Stenshorne, and he just bought Petter Solberg's car because he'd moved on. That was his first year with M Sport.
Mm-hmm.
We did a few rallies in Norway in it. One of them was the Larvik rally, which was asphalt, and we did a pretty good recce. Had a nice test with the car, so all going quite well. Petter was there with Phil with the Focus, which would have been the current '99 Focus.
Mm-hmm.
And without the first stage, I think we were second behind him, and we beat them on the next 3 stages, and then crashed. But
yeah.
Phil thought that I was giving him bum times at one stage and stopped speaking to me. So that car was incredibly fast and very competent, and it was a racing car on tarmac.
Yes.
And Martin had been a kart racer, so it suited him perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But we got some good results in gravel as well with Martin. But I'll never forget the speed of that thing on tarmac. Just, yeah.
They were a very special car. Yes, I know there was the controversy over the turbo and whatever, but you know, but they just seem to be, especially on tarmac, that just seemed to really suit that style. The wheels at each corner, like they were a great big go-kart, really, weren't they?
The speeds you could carry, and again, Toyota developed this thing called the super strut suspension and stuff like that. So whenever you were going over jumps and bumps, it just felt composed. It didn't worry. Like nowadays, R5 cars are very similar. You can drive over most things, and it doesn't upset it. The Celica was a wee bit about. It was like that, you know. Whereas the Group M Prezzo you would have felt a lot more. So yeah, good cars, but I'm just looking through the list here. I haven't had a go on a current WRC. I suppose that's
the only thing missing.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then not a lot of people have, isn't that right?
Well, this is it. They're very, you know, they are. It's not everybody can tick that box, you know. So.
No.
Yeah. And Terry, is there, like, you look back at your career, is there one car or one driver or one rally that really stands out head and shoulders above the rest?
Well, I think from a car point of view, it's going to be the Turbo 16.
Right.
Not the NSU.
Well, I knew that question was coming. Thinking it's in the garage. Driver. I always surprise people, and I surprise myself that I still think it. Vic Elford.
Right.
Have you heard of him?
I have, yeah, and he was a racing driver as well as a rally driver. So
He started off as a navigator.
Right.
He drove a factory DKW.
Okay.
On some funny rally or other, and then he became a driver for Standard Triumph, and then Ford took him on.
When was that? In the 60s or 50s?
Must have been over in the 60s. And then he went to Porsche, and then he went to NASCAR, and then he went to Formula One.
Yeah, and could drive anything like that. It just proves.
He was just the absolute epitome of natural. It's just so easy. It's incredible. Incredible.
In my head, did he win the Monte? Did he win Monte Carlo one year? No.
He might have won Le Mans.
Yeah, maybe Le Mans I'm thinking of, yeah. But he was one of the top 911 drivers, in the early 70s, and they were a difficult car to drive. It wasn't everybody could drive them.
Yeah. The fact that he went to NASCAR and the States and drove them, I mean, they are serious bits of kit.
Yes.
Crazy things.
It's all power, not maybe the most refined cars,
No.
but it's serious grunt, and it's the driver that makes the difference there, isn't it?
Yep.
Keep turning left.
Yeah. But it's not computer generated. It's
No.
It's pure grunt.
Went to Formula One with Cooper Maserati. He was brilliant. But it's amazing. Started as a navigator, worked his way up through everything.
Yes. So he's your standout driver. So if you could get him in the 205 T16, that would be the ideal recipe, you reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
Not a crasher either.
No.
Well, we finished the RAC by going to the fire break, which
Yeah.
Sure. If you're not crashing, you're not trying.
in the Ford Cortina, must have been a Lotus Cortina. Was it a Mark 1 Lotus? Of course it was.
Yeah.
Mark 1 Lotus Cortina on the Gulf for London rally in 68, something like that. The Gulf London rally was the most incredible event. It went solid for 3.5 days with a 2-hour halt in the middle of it. Gulf had tankers out around the route to supply the fuel because didn't want to go into places to get fuel just to break the thing. They had these stages up in Dalby, which were illegal because they went across main roads. When I say main roads, that's not really fact.
Yeah, but I rode
wide
because
roads.
Yeah.
And had stages of 40 miles, 55 miles long. But it's quite early on in the rally. He says, look at this. He just lifts the steering wheel off. Put it back on, he said. Some stupid person's forgotten to put the light out. And he was absolutely right. It had obviously sat on the taper.
Yep.
So they got a bit of a shock and it just came off with it. How cool can you be?
Yeah. Not like Peter Solberg.
No.
Phil had to get the tools out.
That's right, yeah. That was Finland, wasn't it? In the visions of
What was that?
Peter's steering wheel started to come loose in the stage. Phil had to get the tool bag out from between his legs, get the gallon key out, tighten it up. Good old rallying.
Yes. And like the one that I was looking through, Alan, your results, like you're probably one of the first people in the world to rally a Yaris as well. You sat in a Yaris.
Yes.
How did you ever think it would ever turn out this way? You know?
Definitely not. At that time, it was a program Hamid was putting together with the Omani government to help young motorsport, not only drivers, co-drivers, but also mechanics and engineers.
Okay.
So I think they built 4 of them. So the guys came from universities to build the cars. They were instructed by an engineer from England, Chris Hodgson. Taught them all how to build them, how to make them, what was going to need replaced and everything like that, and tires. And they're all taught about it. And then the drivers and co-drivers were brought in and interviewed and selected by Hamid and myself. And we brought them along, and we wanted to show them how far the car could go up the leaderboard in a local rally. You know, that they weren't driving something that was just going to tailboat around at the end, that it could be up on the podium. So that's what Hamid did. Tried to stick it up on the podium. I think, unfortunately, we took a wheel off in the last stage because we were in second place and he was trying to win against, I think there were 10 Evo 9s and a couple of Evo 10s. But that's how much talent that fella has as well. He is an incredibly talented driver.
Who?
Hamid. Yeah. And pure natural, because he came into the sport very late. What age was he? 20, 28?
20 somewhere.
Yeah. And my goodness, just sitting in beside him.
Well, I did the first recce with him. Couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe it.
Now, that's not to say that we didn't get into some intriguing situations over the years. Because sometimes luck overcomes ability. And various parts of the scenery came in through the car, and camels and things like that, and trees, and we lost wheels. And, like we were recceing or practicing as it was. You went and recceed for a couple of days, and I practiced for 5 days with him in a car that was the same as the rally car. So it would just be driven to destruction, you know, and service at the end of each stage.
And on the recce,
yeah. But again, it's times like that. Stan Harper was there, Stephen McMaster, you know, and you bond, you make friends, because it's, you know, sometimes you have to get on the radio and say, look, it might be 9 o'clock at night, we've been out since 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's getting dark, and we've pulled the wheel off it. Can you come and get us?
Bring the trailer.
Yeah. And this is before, you know, WhatsApp, where you could just give them the location. And
you can't drop a pin now. So,
no. So, yeah. Friends for life you make whenever you're like that.
And like Kerry, you must have, like, you know, you must have friends that you know, like the likes of the McCartneys, Cahill Curley, these guys that, you know, you were rallying with back in the 60s and 70s, that you're probably still in contact with to this day.
Unfortunately, I am a total introvert.
Oh, right.
I don't contact anybody. I don't know why. I should have learned by now. The only person that I ever asked could I co-drive or navigate for them was Ari.
Right.
And that was purely through Joan Passos telling me to do it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would. And I mean, he was off the phone and I was on the phone to Ari. That was it. There was no money. Get here as cheaply as you can. I went by train from Gothenburg to Karlstad instead of going flying to Stockholm and then back to Karlstad. Save money. And then I had a stinking cold.
Right.
But it worked out.
Yes.
That's the only time. And unfortunately, I do not keep contact with anybody.
Okay.
I have 3 mates that I play golf with. And that's probably it.
Took me 2 weeks to find him. Get him onto this. Doesn't even stay in touch with me.
And Allan, with regard to staying in touch with people, I know you've a long-term rally partnership with Robert, but also you have with John Paps. You've a very strong relationship there that's been going through the years, and quite a few victories under your belt as well.
Yep. With John, that started in 2001. Chris Patterson asked me if I'd do gravel notes for him and Robert Woodside on, I think it was Rally Luxembourg. And if I did that for nothing, he'd get me a gig with John Paps in a rally in Italy. And it always been one of the things I wanted to do, was to do a rally in Italy. And I thought, right, okay, that's perfect. I'll do that. So James Cullen and I went out and did gravel notes for Robert and Chris. And then after the rally, Chris said, okay, I'll get you in touch with John, and this rally's in Biella. I think it was in August. It's in a 206 WRC. I went, sorry? Yeah, it's Bosian Racing, one of the ex-factory cars. So I arrived into Biella and had a message on my phone whenever I arrived. Hello, Giannis here. Please get a hire car and make your way to the hotel. And he rhymed off this hotel. This is 2001, before like sat-nav was commonplace and things like that. So I'm in Milan, no hire car, got the credit card out, got a hire car, drove to Biella, basically, you know, with maps and signposts, old school, and found the hotel, checked into the hotel, walked into the room, and there was 4 beds in the room. It's like, oh, obviously everybody's staying in my room then. So I was sort of awake. 1:30 came and went, and was like, okay. Eventually I fell asleep. Being from, you know, Ireland, you're expecting everybody to arrive into your room. We're sharing a room here. Didn't quite understand what I got myself into. So next day, down for breakfast, met John, understood, and went and met the team. And it was like, okay, I'm keeping that room for the weekend, and there's nobody else going to be in it. But that was the beginning of the relationship, and I must say he tests you to find out if you're strong enough, mentally strong enough, and that week was quite testing. Did the recce, had a few problems with the recce car, went to the shakedown of the rally car, and it was horrendous. Whenever you accelerated, it went right. Whenever you braked, it went left. And I spent all day working at it and couldn't fix it. So we ended up not doing the rally. And I thought, oh, well, you know, come all the way to Italy. Didn't get to do the rally, but at least I've been here and I've sat in the 206 WRC. You know, worst weeks. And then he rings the room and says, okay, we're going to go for lunch. We've rented a boat and we're going out in Lake Garda. Ah, okay. Now it becomes worthwhile. So that's whenever the friendship really started, whenever he was relaxed and we talked about things and said, okay, this is my plan for the rest of the year. I'd like you to be involved. And that was 2001. The last rally we did together was 2019. I had planned to do rallies with him last year, but because of the coronavirus thing, it just didn't come about. So fortunately, the last rally we did together, we won. And it had been a goal for nearly 20 years to win a rally in Italy together. We'd led, I don't know, how many over the years, whenever you're out with us?
Yeah.
To be let down on the penultimate stage, even on the road section to the finish. You know, people say, that's why whenever I'm watching the WRC and they've got the podium after the last stage, and I'm like, they're being very, very confident there. Because twice we've had the car break down on the road section on the way to the finish. So to get that rally win in Italy with him, it was quite emotional for both of us after trying so long. Because it's not easy to go to Italy and beat the Italians at home. Just see what Craig did at the weekend. Yeah, no. I photographed every time card that I handed in. To make sure there's no discrepancies. Yeah. But and we're still friends. Still speak at least once a month on the phone. See what's happening. Catch up. Yeah, he's been very, very good to me.
And as soon as coronavirus permitting, I'm guessing you'll be on your travels once again.
Yes, I've built up a relationship there with another driver in Greece who's actually John's best friend. And we've done Monte Carlo a few times together, and we did Monza last year. So all things being equal, we got a couple of rallies with him this year, and then another young driver who he introduced me to, hopefully going to do a few rallies in Greece as well. Teaching him the ins and outs of making pace notes and things like that. Yeah.
And Terry, I suppose we'll start to wrap up. Like, if you had your time over again and you were starting out now, would there be anything you would do different, or anything you would change, or did you just enjoy every moment of your ride along the way?
I'm quite happy the way it's been, and here I am.
Yeah,
there's not really. I mean, yeah, if you want to be nitpicky, I'm sure you could find lots of things that you could be better, but no, I'm happy.
Yeah.
If I didn't have so many aches and pains, now I would be really happy. I never could play golf, but now it's really hurts to play golf.
Yes. But like, you're what, 82 now, and to be out there still able to play golf, have your three friends, hopefully now with this Cronus thing that's starting, we're hopefully over the worst of it, to get back out there playing golf, and it must do your heart good.
Yep. Just couldn't complain about anything. Complain about the weather here. How,
of course we can, yeah.
Our summer month, April, that was our summer. What are we going to have now in June, July, and August?
Yeah.
You take it as it is, and just be thankful that you can still enjoy it.
And like you've been at the highest table of rallying. You've been winning world championship rallies. You've started out as a clubman. You've sat in cars that the rest of us can only dream of. Like, it's been such a wonderful career you've had, really.
Yep, absolutely. I agree totally. When you see now somebody's won their 67th World Championship rally, who's won the most world rallies? Is it
Ogier?
Ogier, how many have you won?
Yeah, the Loeb, I think, still the one overall ones, isn't it?
Is it?
Yes, I think, yeah, something like that.
But 6.
Yeah, he's won 9 titles and whatever. I think it's 60 or 96 or something. Many overall ones. Yeah.
I really didn't get into top rallying soon enough. We were playing about that. It should have been younger when I started doing it, but I gave it up. It was any rally, and I gave it up for a couple of years, and got my arm twisted to get back into it. Was I liked the pace notes, enjoyed doing that, but that's it.
And I think, Alan, as you're like we've alluded to there, lifelong friends, traveling the world, something that you started out as a bit of fun to more or less make a career out of it too. Like, it's been phenomenal for you as well, hasn't it?
Charmed life. Yeah.
Like, you must pinch yourself nearly every day.
Yeah. And for me, I only realized it quite recently. A vast percentage of the life that I love is the traveling, is the seeing places, is the meeting new people, and the rallying just.
Is it a bonus to it, nearly?
Yeah. I do love rallying, but the traveling and the rallying work. I don't think traveling and racing would be so successful because you're stuck in the one place.
You travel to the track, guy, and then you see the track, you see the hotel, you see the track, you see the hotel. Yeah.
But rallying, you get to see the whole of the area that you're in, and whenever you're doing WRC, Catalonia is a fantastic place. No, but nobody understands until you go and you see the different places and the different scenery and the little pubs and restaurants. It's not Salou.
No. It's beyond that. That's where you go to the Irish bar or whatever. I can't even remember the name of it now. But
have you not been there?
No. To my eternal shame, no. But as you say, it's beyond all that. Like,
yeah, it's one of the great things about having spent all that time rallying. You see the world. You see parts of the world that nobody else will ever see. Apart from the people who actually live there. It's incredible.
And just to bring up something completely different, Camel Trophy.
Oh, yes.
Like, Dad was involved in that for a long time. I was lucky enough to go for 3 years on that.
Yes.
That was absolutely life-changing for me. 6 weeks in the Amazon jungle. Was there 30 of us together? 6 weeks, 30 people, totally cut off. Okay, there's one sat phone in case we had a real problem.
Siberia.
Like what an experience, and to share it with your father or share it with your son, like that's like it's unheard of. It's just
that's what I'm saying. Charmed life, fantastic.
Yeah, and you see the relationship there between the two. The way in screen, you such have an easy manner with each other. Like there's a strong friendship there as well as a father-son relationship as well, isn't there? So.
One thing that you didn't mention here, I must congratulate you on your research. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Appreciate that.
My last event, Dakar.
Oh, yes.
That just emphasized how completely, utterly stupid I am.
63 years old, were you?
I have no idea. Was it?
I think it was 2003. We were doing Arctic Rally, and Dad and James always came to do ice notes, gravel notes, whatever we were. And Dad went straight from Dakar, finishing Dakar.
No, I didn't get to Dakar.
Sorry,
Sharm el Sheikh.
Sharm el Sheikh, yeah, to Rovaniemi.
Okay.
So what was it, +30 to -30 overnight?
Yep. Well, left the afternoon, flew to Paris, on a plane from Paris to Helsinki, and another plane to Rovaniemi.
Needless to say, I got a cold whenever I arrived.
But that was an incredible experience, I have to say.
Yes.
I don't know why I agreed to do it, because I just had this thing inside me that I would love to have actually driven something like a standard Pajero, driven a properly prepared standard one, not a racing thing, just to experience going across the Sahara and all that. It was an amazing thing, but I still don't know why I did it. Oh, I do, of course.
Mad.
Well, that was it. You got Dakar done, and you got a rally in the current WRC, as it was then, in Syria. That's a whole other story by itself, Syria.
Dakar.
That was after Dakar, same year.
After Dakar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I told you lies there by saying my last one.
Yeah.
Syria. Oh my God.
I could talk to you for an hour and a half on that rally.
And what was the experience? And what was the car even they were sitting in Syria?
What was it?
S8
vehicle.
Oh yes.
The Subaru S8. But they were wrecking in a 99 car.
Right. Okay.
Which was then given to me and the younger son to rally in.
Okay.
We were wrecking in a group NE09. So these guys just, were going rallying. And but it wasn't brother, was it? Were they cousins? The ham shows?
Brothers.
They were brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call the young one?
Ahmed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Very interesting week of our lives. A very interesting week of our lives.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Whenever you don't have any control over any situation at all, and you're just being
dragged along.
We're quite lucky to feel the wheels lift off the ground at Damascus Airport.
Yes. You could relax there.
Yeah.
I had quite a few problems with the local law keepers.
Right.
Over the years. In Manaus, Camel Trophy, one of our team had left his passport in the hotel, and we were stopped on the road coming back later that day, and they wanted his passport. We were all arrested. They did a job for John Brown on the Classic.
In Croatia? Was that?
Yugoslavia. Well, it must be London to Cape Town. We were in Romania doing some route modifications because of the situation in Yugoslavia.
Okay.
And
We were arrested there by the secret police because we had this thing on the dashboard. We drove backwards and forwards past this big military base. Didn't know it was a military base. Didn't say it was a military base. Daily soldiers. We were taken back to headquarters, and because I had 2 Croatian guys with me, a Croatian registered vehicle. So I immediately got on to John Brown, and he got on to the powers that be in Whitehall. And nearly escalated into a serious affair.
International crisis.
Yeah. That was the other one. We had a problem with the police.
And there was a time you went into Jordan on your Irish passport and tried to leave on your UK passport. That didn't go down well.
I did that in Oman. I was carrying 2 passports.
Yeah, because carrying 2 passports is not.
No. Totally illegal, isn't it?
I had an omen, so we should call it, going to Argentina. Couldn't get a visa. Paris, where they unveiled some new car. It must have been the 309, would that be it? Look at it, garbage. And then got a message to go to the Brazilian embassy in Paris, where I could get it, where a visa would be waiting for me.
To go to Brazil?
I had gone to Dublin and taken out an Irish passport. No problem to get into Argentina.
Yeah.
But obviously I shouldn't have been there. If I hadn't been there, we wouldn't have had that accident.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
So that passport, I'm afraid, was only used once.
Yes. Right, well, I think we can wrap it up there. So, Alan and Terry, I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Good.
Enjoyed it.
I hope you can get something together out of it all.
Absolutely. No, yeah, there's loads of great stuff in there now. With it.
The research you've done has been brilliant.
Thank you very much. No, that was Terry Harryman, Allan Harryman, Connor Edwards, and myself, Kevin Glendinning, talking rallying. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. And if you liked it, can you please like and share across all social media platforms? And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, can you please rate and review? And if you're watching it on the YouTube channel, can you please subscribe to the channel? That would all be gratefully appreciated. Until the next time, take care, speak soon, bye.